Hi students, myself Dr. Govardhan Kumar, Assistant Professor and Research Coordinator in Sree Balaji Medical College and Hospital. I have nearly done 10 publications and today we are going to discuss about larynx and pharynx, a very interesting topic. So coming to the anatomy of larynx, as we all know, larynx also known as windpipe. So it's a cartilaginous structure located in the anterior neck. Main functions will be protection of the airway, phonation and respiration. So division, it is divided into supraglottis, glottis and subglottis. What are the key cartilages? Even the cartilages are divided into hyaline cartilages and elastic cartilages. So the thyroid, cricoid, arytenoid comes under hyaline cartilages. Cricoid cartilage is the only complete ring and marks the narrowest point in children. So you can go through the slide. It is showing the epiglottis, hyoid, thyroid, cricothyroid ligament, cricoid cartilage. I will tell few important points about the cricothyroid membrane. So whenever patient comes to the casualty or emergency with airway obstruction, so we all know we should do tracheostomy, but the cricothyroidectomy will be a life-saving, immediate, simple procedure. Then you can see the endoscopic pictures of arytenoid cartilages, folds, trachea and posterior pharyngeal wall. Coming to the nerve supply of the larynx, motor wise as well as sensory division. Motor division includes recurrent laryngeal nerve which supplies all the intrinsic muscles of the larynx except cricothyroid. Cricothyroid also known as the vocal tensor. It is supplied by the external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve. Coming to the sensory part, above the vocal cords, internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve and below again by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Now coming to the functions of the larynx, protection of the airway during swallowing, phonation, regulation of airflow for respiration, control of intrathoracic pressure and fixation of the chest. Common disorders, again the disorders are divided into benign as well as malignant. So some of the important benign disorders, vocal nodules, these are nothing but bilateral thickening at the junction of the anterior and middle third of the vocal cords seen in the professional voice singers. Symptoms wise, hoarseness as well as voice fatigue. Management wise, rest, speech therapy, occasionally surgical excision. Coming to the second part, vocal polyps, usually unilateral, may be associated with smoking, infection or voice abuse, larger and more vascular than nodules. Treatment wise, microlaryngoscopic excision or laser removal. So coming to our third benign pathology, laryngeal papillomata. Benign tumors caused by human papillomavirus 6 and 11, we know 16 and 18 will cause the malignancy part of the cervix. Common in children, juvenile papillomatosis recurrent in adults may cause the progressive hoarseness or airway obstruction. Treatment wise, repeated laser excision or microdebrider remover. Adjuvant therapy includes antiviral or HPV vaccination. Coming to laryngitis, infective pathology, again it is divided into acute laryngitis and chronic laryngitis. Acute laryngitis often follows upper respiratory infection, causes transient hoarseness and sore throat. Management wise, again rest, steam inhalation, analgesics. No need of any antibiotics. Coming to the chronic laryngitis, due to chronic irritation, smoke, reflex, infection, overuse of the voice. Symptomatic wise, persistent hoarseness, throat clearing, cough. Treatment wise, remove irritants and treat along with the PPI therapy, also known as proton pump inhibition therapy, voice hygiene and avoid shouting. Coming to vocal cord palsy. As a surgeon, this vocal cord palsy is a nightmare. During thyroid surgeries, recurrent laryngeal nerve is the most common nerve that is very prone to get injured. If we damage on one side, patient will land up with hoarseness. If we damage on both sides, patient will land up in stridor. Then we must do emergency tracheostomy to save the patient. Now coming to vocal cord palsy, common cause as already discussed, unilateral palsy, bilateral palsy, and these are the positions. Whenever the vocal cord is injured, it will attain certain positions. The most common position is paramedian position. In the first picture you can see the normal position, in the second picture you can see the paramedian position attained on the left side because of one side injury. Coming to the causes, iatrogenic causes like thyroidectomy, thoracic surgeries, neoplastic causes like lung, thyroid, esophageal carcinoma and neurological like brainstem lesion, aortic aneurysm. Management wise, voice therapy for unilateral causes, tracheostomy may be required for airway compromise. Tumors of the larynx, again 90% are squamous cell carcinomas. As we all know, the larynx already divided into supraglottic, glottic and subglottic. The glottic cancers are most common, almost 60%. Coming to risk factors, tobacco, alcohol, HPV infection, occupational exposure. Pathogenesis wise, chronic irritation leads to epithelial metaplasia and carcinoma. Clinical features of laryngeal tumors like early symptom persistent hoarseness if the symptoms persist more than 3 weeks. Others like dysphagia, odynophagia, referred ear pain, dyspnea and neck pain, advanced disease like stridor and airway compromise. Investigation and diagnosis purpose, indirect laryngoscopy or flexible nasoendoscopy, direct laryngoscopy with biopsy under general anesthesia for histological diagnosis, imaging wise CT, MRI for tumor extent and nodal involvement. PET CT always been used for advanced stages for staging as well as recurrence. Coming to the treatment of laryngeal cancer, again early stage like T1, T2, advanced stage like 3T, 3, 4. Early stages are treated with single modality like radiotherapy or transoral laser excision. Goal is to preservation of voice in early stages. Advanced stages we cannot preserve the voice, but still there are so many modalities for the speech. So what is the procedures for advanced stages? Like combined modality includes chemoradiotherapy or total laryngectomy. If the extralaryngeal spread, then we will proceed with total laryngectomy plus neck dissection plus radiotherapy. Palliative care for metastatic disease focus on airway management and symptom control. So you can see this is a laryngeal tumor involving the entire length of the right vocal cord. Coming to the voice rehabilitation after laryngectomy, the transesophageal puncture with a voice prosthesis, example Provox valve. It allows the air to pass from trachea into esophagus to create vibration. Electrolarynx, a handheld battery operated device that operates vibrations transmitted to the oral cavity for speech. The oroesophageal speech, the air is swallowed into the esophagus and released, causing the vibration of the pharyngoesophageal mucosa. You can see the pictures. The first picture, Blom-Singer valve with a surgically fashioned tracheoesophageal fistula from an outer stoma valve. The second, electrolarynx. Third is Provox voice valve, and fourth is production of esophageal speech. So we have completed the topic larynx. Now we are going to start with the topic pharynx. Pharynx also known as foot pipe, that is oropharynx. So before that there will be nasopharynx. Coming to the anatomy of the nasopharynx, it lies anterior to the first cervical vertebra. Adenoids are situated at the junction of roof and posterior wall of the nasopharynx because adenoids are the important structures of the nasopharynx. Valde's ring is a very important ring, the most common ring to get infected. What is that? It is nothing but a ring of lymphoid tissue comprising, in addition to the adenoids, palatine, lingual tonsils of the oropharynx. Important part of the malt. What is malt? Mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. It processes antigens and presents to the T helper cells and B cells, thereby facilitating a first line immune response mechanism. One more important part where you will encounter malt is in the stomach. It is associated with H. pylori infection. Not all tumors are carcinogenic, but whenever malt occurs in stomach, the treatment will be H. pylori eradication program. The eustachian tubes leading from the middle ear cleft open into the posterior superior aspect of the lateral wall. Dorsal and superior to the openings, it is bounded anterior by a ridge formed by the salpingopharyngeus mucosa and the fossa of Rosenmuller, a common site for the development of nasopharyngeal carcinoma. I will explain with one more example why this fossa of Rosenmuller is very important. Whenever a patient comes to the OPD with a swelling in the posterior aspect or in the posterior triangle of the neck, so the most common site sometimes will be fossa of Rosenmuller. It is also known as blind spot because we cannot see the tumor arising from the fossa of Rosenmuller during any investigations. The only thing will be taking multiple biopsies along this blind spot. So one of the most important blind spot will be fossa of Rosenmuller. Coming to the diseases, again they are divided into benign as well as malignant. So enlarged adenoids, obstructive sleep apnea and tumors of nasopharynx. I will tell few points about obstructive sleep apnea. As a surgeon, obstructive sleep apnea is very important to us in order to prevent post-operative complications, and even while performing bariatric surgeries, this obstructive sleep apnea is one of the absolute or sometimes relative contraindication to proceed with the surgery. Enlarged adenoids most commonly around 4 to 10 years of age, but usually get spontaneous atrophy during puberty. There is only one nasopharyngeal adenoid despite the common use adenoids. The most common cause of enlarged adenoid is physiological hypertrophy in childhood. You can see the picture of the adenoid in the slide. Coming to the complications, nasal obstruction, obstructive sleep apnea. And the sleep apnea is nothing but because of the hypertrophy associated with the hypertrophy of the lymphoid tissue of the Valdes ring. Coming to obstructive sleep apnea, very important point. Clinical presentation in children most commonly snoring, restless and strange sleep positions. Coming to the complications, sleep deprivations, secondary cardiac complications, sudden infant death syndrome. So never ever just take it for granted the obstructive sleep apnea, kindly get your test done. So coming to etiology in adults, nasal deformity, hypertrophic soft palate, obesity, general narrowing of the pharyngeal airway or supraglottic laryngeal pathology. Investigation wise, sleep study, continuous positive airway pressure devices may ameliorate the obstructive sleep apnea by splinting the obstruction open. Surgery may be indicated depending on the level of obstruction. Coming to indications of adenoidectomy, the obstructive sleep apnea associated with post-nasal obstruction, then recurrent acute otitis media or prolonged otitis media, usually longer than 3 months of duration. So initially we will treat with antibiotics, if not surgery is the choice. Recurrent rhinosinusitis and post-nasal discharge. Now what are the steps of adenoidectomy? Very simple procedure. We will use a Stair Thompson adenoid curator. We will pass posteriorly, we will take hold of the gland and we will just curettage it. Complications, reactionary hemorrhage, secondary hemorrhage. The hemorrhage which occurs within 24 hours, we can call it as reactionary hemorrhage. If it occurs later, it is known as secondary hemorrhage. Coming to the benign tumors, angiofibroadenoma, even though it is benign, it is very rare, usually occurs at the age of 8 years between 8 and 20 years. So clinical presentation wise, progressive nasal obstruction, recurrent severe epistaxis, purulent rhinorrhea and occasional loss of vision because of compression of optic nerve by superior extension of the tumor through the skull base. Skull base tumors are very difficult to operate. On examination, there will be mass in the nasal cavity or nasopharynx. Investigation wise, CT scan, MRI scan, angiography, embolization. Biopsy should be avoided because of the risk of bleeding. What is the treatment? Midfacial deglowing approach or lateral rhinotomy. These are the different approaches. Ligation of the feeding maxillary artery is the aim. So the next benign pathology will be antrochoanal polyp. Benign mucosal polyp arises in the maxillary antrum, later prolapses into nasal cavity and expands back into the nasopharynx and oropharynx. What is the differential diagnosis? Angiofibroma we already discussed, from which it is distinguished, but it can differentiate between both avascularity and pale color. We all know angiofibroma is very highly vascular, antrochoanal polyp will be avascular and pale color. Investigation wise, endoscopic examination, CT, MRI. Treatment wise, complete removal via endoscopic approach. It is a kind of minimal invasive approach through the middle meatus of the maxillary sinus. Open approach will be Caldwell-Luke approach. So coming to the malignant tumors of the nasopharynx, again very rare, more common in male. Etiology wise, genetic. Cantonese population, infection wise, Epstein-Barr virus, environmental salted fish and tobacco smoking. Clinical presentation is a bimodal distribution. That means it can occur in the young age as well as in the old age. Cervical lymphadenopathy, hearing loss, nasal obstruction, bloody discharge, epistaxis, cranial nerve palsies, especially 3rd to 6th nerves, then 9 to 12 nerves, trismus. Coming to the investigation part, MRI is the investigation of the choice for all the soft tissue tumors. CT neck, head, FNAC, biopsy. We already discussed about the importance of force of Rosenmuller. Then flexible or rigid nasoendoscope and biopsy, serological investigation for Epstein-Barr virus associated antigen markers, immunoglobulin, a viral capsid antigen antibody and early antigen antibody. Now what is the treatment part? So mostly radiotherapy, sometimes chemotherapy. The treatment of the choice for stage 1 and stage 2 tumors will be radiotherapy, cisplatin based chemotherapy with concurrent radiation therapy for stage 3 and 4 advanced stages. Surgery is reserved for local recurrence that would require a nasopharyngectomy. So regional recurrence in the neck is managed by a neck dissection. So 5-year survival rate always more than 75%, but when it comes to advanced disease, the survival rate will be around only 30 to 50% for a 5-year duration. Thank you students. I hope our interactive session of larynx and pharynx is understood. Even if you have any doubts, just comment in the drop box. We will be meeting again with some interesting topic. Thank you.